a more deep dive. But we'll touch one more topic before we cut the video for today, and it'll be like, where do you guys go for additional content in either playing your games or running your games? So, for instance, I run a game with some guys from work, and I use something called Cobalt Fight Club. It's a website that will easily allow you to put players, classes, and levels, and it will spit out encounters that are challenging, middling challenging, hard, impossible, and easy. And then you just kind of I use it for like quick reference running through forests, and then this happens. And then I look like I'm awesome because I did an encounter that was actually challenging for them. And it's a counter to doing the whole like CR balancing and not balancing of the monster manual, which is an okay way of doing it, but I've never found that it doesn't take into account party composition or skill level of the players or how comfortable each player is with the class that they're playing. So I much like this Cobalt Fight Club uh, website I use. But Bryce, we'll flip it to you around the circle.
I don't tend to use the CR ratings and stuff like that because I don't think they work, to be honest with you, especially if you're using multi-class characters and all this and that. As far as extra content, I like. I'm a big fan of using tables and rolling on tables, or just straight up stealing stuff from other adventures. But there is a page. Oh shoot! I actually have a application that you can get on Steam. It's called Dungeon Painter Studio, which allows you to make a dungeon and print it off. But they also have a link on there. It's called Donjon, donjon.bin.sh. It's kind of a hard one to find, but it's a random dungeon generator. And what it'll do is it'll actually create a dungeon with doors and everything for you on just a little grid. And it'll tell you what could be in it, and you have quite a bit of options to fill it out with stuff. It's really ugly. It's really old school, all text, little drop down boxes, number of levels, name of the dungeon, motif options, but it will come up with a little map for you. So the one that I'm looking at right now, I just went to it. They've named it the Sepulchre of Eros the Treacherous. It's a 1-level dungeon. It's got, I don't know, it looks like 8 rooms, some secret doors it throws in there for you, some locked doors, some open doors. And it says that it has a bunch of rats in it. It's a level 1. It looks like it's a level 1 type of encounter. And you click the construct button, and it'll pull it out. And let's say, and it's dungeon walls, reinforced masonry, climb DC 20. Dungeon floor, flagstone, dense rubble, move at half speed. Temperature, cool, illumination, shadow, phosphorescent fungus or candles every 20 feet. And then it's got, for each corridor, there's like stuff that's in it, traps. It fills out a dungeon for you, really is what it does, and that's quite nice. Cool. And you can just probably find that under random dungeon generator.
Cool. Ryan, Jess, do you have any tools or tips or tricks that you've picked up?
I guess I would have to say for me, being very new to it still, I've learned as we've gone along, and everyone kind of guides me, says, hey, why don't we try this instead or whatever. I think one of the biggest things too is watching Critical Role. They've got a thing called Handbooker Helper, and it actually breaks down the handbook for you. Helps you like kind of learn how to read it better and how to use it better. I think that's been a big thing for me, learning how to play this whole thing. So I think that's kind of where some of my confidence is coming from too, as we've gone, is just getting more comfortable with the character and learning more of how the mechanics of the game actually work. I think is probably been the thing for me.
As far as that goes for me, my D&D career kind of started off with just some of the R.A. Salvatore novels and listening to anybody who has anything to do with old Bob, as I hear a million people refer to him, is just Rule of Cool works. But
Do you mean that old Bob who's dead?
yeah, Dead Bob. But as far as that goes, I'm a machinist, so I get to stand in one spot and work a machine all day. I always have an earbud in, listening to podcasts, and I've got, let's see here, I've got 4, 6, 9, 10, 11, 13, 16 different D&D podcasts I listen to. If anybody wants me to name them, I can quite readily, but...
Do you have a good one that people might not know about? Because I know everybody is going to know about Critical Role and all that stuff if you've listened to anything, but is there someone you'd shout out that's maybe not as popular, but just as good?
Above and beyond, I think there's Acquisitions Incorporated, which they're nearly as well known as Critical Role. A lot of Wizards of the Coast staff is involved with that.
A lot earlier than Critical Role, too.
Yep. And I also like, where is it? I already mentioned a More Civilized podcast, didn't I?
Yeah, that's the Star Wars one that...
I mean, we have...
Yeah, that one teeny guy had something to do with.
Roleplay from Adam Kobol's games. I would highly recommend Adam Kobol as a DM. I think he's a great DM. But I would be leery if you're going to play in one of my games listening to Adam Kobol, because I steal a lot of his stuff because of how good it is and implement it in my own ways.
I would caution against that slightly. He does have a lot of solid play mechanics, but it's one of those. I like Adam Kobol. He's a good guy, and oddly enough, he's a very small man.
Okay.
It surprised me when I ran into him at Gen Con. He's
rude.
Well, and
I don't judge a DM by his size.
Yeah, and you're not the smallest of guys out there in the first place. I mean, so to compare against you.
And, it's one of those, the camera angle is very faulty with him. Because the camera angle always catches from here up on him. So I kind of thought, okay, maybe he's 5'7", 5'8"-ish.
Well, we can no longer count on Adam Kobol doing any collaboration with us.
No longer a sponsor of this stream.
Oh,
I'm gonna throw a shout out to my
and where you talked about the podcast and so forth and other resources, the MCDM Matt Cursor for on YouTube, especially not just for those who are going to DM the game, but to get a general idea of how to play. And some of the ones that Bryce had recommended, was it Z Bamshaw? I believe is one of the
Zebashaw,
ones.
yeah. He
Shaw.
is the animated spell book.
Right.
They're very entertaining, even if you don't want to play D&D. And then I also am a big fan of the Professor Dungeon Master at Dungeon Craft.
Yeah,
He has a lot of interesting things to say.
now from one grognard to another with the Professor DM. So he's been playing a lot of different editions, and where you talk about different resources, I kind of go back to, I mean, I've got second edition stuff over here, third edition 3.5, fourth edition, and the great thing is, even if you're not, like we had talked about in the intro or earlier in this video, if you're not familiar with the history of D&D, you could pull from any resource. You could pull from Narnia or any setting you like, Game of Thrones. And
Anywhere
I mean, a lot
that
of them
has a big enough Wikipedia for you to be able to Google something, you can set as a setting. You can do Harry Potter, just like you said, Narnia, all that stuff.
or if you're that much of a fan of a certain like cyberpunk style or something like that, you could even just create your own environment. But to be able to modify those resources, a lot of time reskinning makes a lot of difference in the world. Everybody here, I believe, in our game setting, if I was to describe a gelatinous cube, they'd automatically go, "Oh, it's a gelatinous cube. We know exactly that what we can and can't do against it." So then I'll turn around and make it an explosive gelatinous cube that does things like dropping bombs, things that shift that and reskin it. So those resources are out there to tell you how to modify your game to your own play, and you don't have to be an experienced player or DM to do that. Jess was talking about using the book or the reference to be able to become a better player. Sometimes just understanding what it is about your character, whether it's your background or how you want to play a certain style. Maybe you always want to be Batman. So cool. You can see how you play that style.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everyone for watching, the viewers we had live, and anyone who's watching this after the fact on YouTube. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Got a little tongue tied there, and we'll try and do this semi regularly. Talk about different D&D and tabletop stuff that's going on in our lives. So comment below on stuff you might want to hear us talk about, or things that are going on in your tabletop gaming experience and lives. We'd like to see you guys out there. So until then, stay safe, everybody, and
Stay home, stay safe.
peace.